guys, welcome back to Keto Rewind. I'm Jess. I have Mom here again today.
Are you sick of me yet?
Today starts week 4 of the Keto Rewind Clean 30 Challenge. So congrats. We are in the home stretch. I think there's 10 days left in this challenge.
And then I'm going home. No, just kidding.
Not yet. It's snowing really hard up there. You want to stay in Texas a little bit more. So today I am switching things up a little bit. We're actually making our dinner for lunch, and that's because my kids have a school function after school and around evening time, and so we have stuff to do this evening and I'm not going to be able to film. So lunch, if you have something like that happen, don't be afraid to have your bigger meal at lunch. You don't always have to have a huge dinner. You can swap your meals. And obviously, because today is just some baked eggs for lunch, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You can hit that up and that'll be dinner. So it's okay. And that also keeps your body guessing, like, what's going on here? So it's part of the journey and you just make it work. So this way,
and you have to be flexible.
Yeah, you have to be
this
flexible.
Is part of we're teaching you how to be flexible.
Roll with the punches.
Right. Like, don't just say, well, I'm not doing it today. That's hurting you.
That's an excuse.
Yeah.
So
you just prepared. We knew a week ago that this was coming, and we've been thinking, okay, what can we do when she made up the recipes and the menus for this week? We knew that on Thursday or Friday.
This is an quick recipe where we can make it for lunch and still have plenty of time to do the stuff in the rest of our day. Right. So anyways, we're gonna make it work. You should too. So anyways, today is going to be a delicious keto beef and broccoli. Mom makes this all the time. I always love it. So I'm like, you know what? It'd be perfect. Show us how to do it.
And it's done in the Instant Pot.
You could do it can do it stove top or something like that as well. A crock pot, but we're showing you an Instant Pot because everybody loves Instant Pot recipes. They're so easy. In 5 minutes we're gonna have lunch, so or I should say dinner.
2.5 hours of prep, but 5 minutes we'll have lunch. No.
Let's start off by making this delicious keto and broccoli. I'm gonna change the camera angle.
Beef and broccoli.
That's right. It's beef and broccoli rather. So I'm gonna change the camera angle so you can see what we're doing.
Did you see the cat?
The cat.
That's his new thing. It did this yesterday.
So I'm going to use the steamer basket for my Instant Pot, and I'll show you how that works. The beef will be down below it, but you don't want soggy broccoli. So all you do, here, I'll set that up for me, is put your steamer basket right on top. This way you're doing 2 things at once. So it's a pretty cool feature. And then we'll pretend that the beef's underneath there, and then you put your broccoli on top.
And then when it's all done, you just pull this out. You see how that will come right out?
And it brings everything out with it.
Everything out. And it's a little condensed after it's cooked. So, you're not going to have pieces falling off.
All right, so let's get started on our next part. So I'm going to insert a clip of how we got our our sliced meat here. Right, this way you know how we cut it.
So if you take a piece of steak, you can see that the fibers run this way. So you want a nice tender cut. So instead of just hold your knife this way, nope, you want to cut it this way. Go almost opposite. And this way you're cutting across the grain, and that will give you a much tender piece of meat. Okay, and then you can see in the actual piece that the cut is going here, and what your purpose is, you see that it's going from like side to side, and you're cutting north to south, and that's what you want. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare a marinade. So, and with that marinade is going on the meat and eventually incorporate it into the whole dish. But the prep work is that you're going to need avocado oil, and the recipe will be linked. Sesame oil, your coconut aminos.
Speaking of coconut aminos, if you want a lower carb alternative to coconut aminos are higher in carbs than like a soy sauce or a gluten-free soy sauce. But there's no soy. And what do you like? What's more of a problem? Choose your poison. Choose your poison. I personally would rather no soy and have a natural source of a sugar versus a soy. And that's what is going to have way more inflammation, in my opinion. And that's why I do it. A gluten-free soy sauce would be the best choice if you did not want to do a coconut aminos. All right.
Okay. And then after that, we're also going to be using minced garlic. We're going to have I like the white sesame seeds. This is a ginger root, if you've not seen a ginger root before. and of course an orange and some
we've
green
chopped
onions.
up our ginger root as
Yeah, we'll
as
do
well.
that first. Let's talk about ginger root. There are two ways to do this. You can just leave it out. We use lots of it, so it stays in our basket, or in the refrigerator. But you can actually take, like if you broke a finger off, you would have a piece, something that looks like this, or maybe kind of looks like this. You could throw this in a Ziploc bag and just stick it in your freezer. When you need fresh ginger for a tea, or for a garnish, or for part of a marinade, you would just take this out of the freezer and it grates. I would cut the end off and grate it, and it's so much easier to grate it frozen than it is to grate it fresh. Because it's a very fibrous and very stringy root. And you can see the roots on the end of it. So it's a difficult, it's a challenge, so it does work better. The fibers will cut easier once the actual root is frozen. All right, you need a microplaner. This one is, this can be used for cheese, it can be used for zesting, and for grating. You can grate garlic with this and have almost like your own fresh garlic paste with a clove of garlic. And then with the ginger root, this is what we did. And you just go back and forth on it. And then it's a sticky thing, so you just take it and you'll put it in there. And for this recipe, it's about a teaspoon. So that's just about a teaspoon. But I wanted to teach you a little bit about ginger root.
And you shouldn't use dried ginger in this recipe.
No,
it's not going to give you the same flavor.
Yeah.
And fun fact, these little differences might be why people say they can't cook, or they don't know how to cook well, or whatever they try to cook and their recipes just don't taste good. These little things, these little tweaks, it might be what's going wrong in your recipe. So if you have considered yourself a bad cook or you can't cook, try different ways. Don't just throw in the towel, because you're going to have a much more flavorful dinner if you make it yourself and use fresh ingredients, and you're going to enjoy the food that you're eating. So anyways, let me flip the camera back around and we'll do some scallions.
Yeah, scallions or green onions, whatever you prefer to call them. This recipe, I usually put about 4 of them in. The top ones I like to go little, and I'm going to put them aside just because that is what I use. Well, you must be getting to know me now. I think things look pretty. So this is how I make it look pretty at the end. The rest, however, I'm going to actually use for the flavor. And I'm going, if you notice, I'm going all the way down. I took the little tips off the end and you wash them, or we soak everything in vinegar water. But this is a little bit stronger. This is a little bit milder. But when you're making a pot like this, take it all. Take all the aroma and the flavor, and don't be afraid to use the whites.
So at this point, we're gonna make the marinade for our steak. And so we're gonna use avocado oil. If you don't have avocado oil, try using coconut oil. But you want a oil that you can use a high heat with. Our steak has been obviously diced up. We have 1 pound of meat here, and this is gonna make 4 servings.
And that can be just any steak that you have left over in your freezer.
I'm using sirloin because that's my favorite cut.
Yeah, you use what you like best. Look at that, we just.
Oh, you're short.
Just a little bit short here. Perfect. And we're gonna put in some sesame oil. Sesame oil, be very careful. Do not put in more than the recipe calls for, because if you,
it's strong.
It's very strong, and you may not like that taste, and it may ruin the recipe for you. All right, so you can see it's pretty good here. So the next thing you're gonna do is I'm going to add that, it's about a teaspoon or so of the freshly grated ginger. And I kind of do it one by one at this point because I want to make sure that it's blended in well. All right, my next thing is I'm going to show you how to use the microplaner with the orange. The orange takes this meal makes a really nice finish. If you've ever had orange beef in an Asian restaurant, you'll know what I'm talking about. So make sure you wash the orange that you're using, because you don't want that. The first thing that's going to come off is wax. You don't want wax in your food.
This lady is long-winded. It drives me nuts when I'm trying to.
Asking me questions when you were a kid?
Oh my God, just grate the freaking orange. This way, if you use the zest, you're getting the flavor of the orange without all the carbs from the actual juice. So, and if you don't like orange, you can completely omit this step. It's not gonna really be something that has to be in the recipe, but it does help.
And you don't want the white pith, okay? This is about as far down as you want to take a zest.
Just the orange part.
Right. And that's a pretty good,
that's a ton.
It's so flavorful. I probably won't use all of it. That grated up a lot easier than the ginger root. But what I probably will do is I'm going to take all of half of it. That's going in there. Now that's all incorporated now. That ring is no longer present. And you're just going to have to get in here and get dirty because that's what we do. All right, now what you're going to do is just let that set for about 30 minutes.
All right, so we're gonna start off using our Instant Pot, and if you're not doing it with Instant Pot, put it on the stove. And we're gonna saute the beef that's been marinating now for a solid half hour. Why don't you just dump it all in there?
Well, because I'm the marinade, once it gets going, I'll have more marinade.
See, this is where we're different. I'd have plopped it all right in there.
I like to,
delicately
as it starts cooking, I will add the rest of the marinade.
That's the difference between type A person and type B. I am the B.
I might be an A.
Oh my gosh. All right, when she's done pouring that in there, my arms are getting numb. We'll be back. Alrighty, now we are sauteing, cook the meat somewhat, not all the way through. And then we're going to be back when it's time to add some water to this.
Depending on how you like your beef, I don't want this cooked completely through. So I'm going to stop it just about now. Or just not stop it, but it's done enough for me.
It's time to put the broccoli layer in.
But before I do that, I'm going to take the rest of that marinade and I'm going to, just because you know in Instant Pot you need the extra water.
You need a total cup of a fluid of some sort.
So I don't want to lose any of the good bits of that marinade, so I'm going to throw that in there. All right, and if you notice here, I have the garnished green onions with the sesame. They're at the end. But right now is when I'm going to add the the meat and the meatier parts of the scallions. Throw that in and let that set. And then I would say put the broccoli. Now here's an act.
We're going to put in the broccoli right on top.
Set it right on top of it.
And then we're going to put the cover on. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, our timer just went off and it's time to do a quick release. Take your broccoli out and set it aside. And also, if you can strain out your meat with a slotted spoon, and this way we can make the sauce a little thicker. So we're at that point right here where we took the meat out, the broccoli out, and this is just the juice. And to make it a little sweeter and a little thicker, we're gonna put sugar, or I should say a keto approved sweetener, and xanthan gum to thicken it up. So I'm changing it to saute, and now we're going to thicken the sauce. This is a completely optional step. At this point, you could just serve it as is and it's wonderful, or you can take this step. I'm gonna use Swerve powdered sugar in this one, but use a sweetener of your choice.
Xanthan gum.
And the xanthan gum I buy in a big bag, and then I use my little storage container. It makes it real easy to measure it.
How much do you think we should put in there?
I would do a ½ teaspoon.
Half? That's a half.
Start with a half and you can always add more.
I'm gonna wait for it to, can you do it now? You gotta wait till
Wait for it to boil and get a little hotter. It won't take long because it's already hot. So we have a gentle boil starting, and now we're gonna thicken it, and it just gave it a quick taste test, and we're gonna add just a little salt to it. So salt and pepper to taste. I'm not gonna give you the exact amount. Right. You need to do what you like.
Taste, right.
And then I'm also going to add a ½ teaspoon of Swerve. You wanna open that? I'm out of hands.
I'll do it. And I like when it's hot like this, I like to use the powdered sugar. You know, not the granulated. I think there's a whole lot less clumping going on.
And then lastly, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And lastly, I'll sprinkle some xanthan gum. We're gonna start with a ½ teaspoon and go from there. And when you're doing xanthan gum, make sure you are whisking as you would enter it. This way you don't have any clumps. It's kind of gross with a bunch of clumps, you know? So All you have to do is make sure you're stirring it and keeping after it while you're putting it in, and it'll be perfect.
Smells good. You can actually pick up the orange. It's nice. It's just right.
And remember, put it in and wait, because xanthan gum is an instant. It takes a second to absorb and thicken. So don't put a ton of it in if you see it's still, you know, it's too liquidy. Just give it a second to work.
It's just now starting to thicken.
And if it hasn't changed, then you can add some more, you know, but just give it a chance to work first.
It's almost like cornstarch was the same way. When we used to use cornstarch a gazillion years ago, cornstarch was the same way. You'd have too much and it would be like a big clump at the end because you were impatient. Be patient with your food.
Again, it's like these little differences that make or break a recipe. And if you wanted to, you could have done the Swerve brown sugar to give it more of a molasses or a richer taste. We just use plain, regular granular.
I think the traditional beef and broccoli is made with honey.
Honey, yeah. If you're on paleo, that's what you could do. As you see, it's just now starting to thicken up. So we'll be back when it's ready, when it's thicker. Okay, and at this point, we're just gonna divide it into 4 servings, because this recipe makes 4 servings. I'm gonna combine the beef and broccoli in one bowl, and then we're gonna pour the sauce over it. This way everybody gets the same amount, and ooh, is it good. So as you can see, the sauce has thickened up a ton, and it's more like a gravy now. Ooh.
Isn't that nice?
See if that's good for you,
Oh,
or you want
perfect.
thicker.
No, that's perfect. You just cut that right off and we'll use it.
All right, now at this point, we're gonna just put the sauce on our beef and broccoli. Isn't that so good? And this also makes sure that it's not just a soupy mess. It's just a well done, well thought out, delicious keto beef and broccoli dish. That looks so yummy.
Let me finish up.
And now the last of the finishing touches is you're going to put your scallions, the ones that we set aside, and your sesame seeds. What is a Asian dish without sesame seeds? Plus sesame seeds has lots of good stuff in it. And there you have it, the finished product. Let me see if I can get my shadow out of here for you. And we'll bring it over here. And there you have the finished dish, keto beef and broccoli. Winner, winner. And remember, the recipe link is down below.